Welcome, welcome to our Yin Yoga and Yoga Nidra session tonight for the new moon and also the new year. And I found that it being January 2nd and it being a new moon, pretty auspicious. So this to me feels in some ways more like an official beginning, being a new moon, being an opportunity for us to get grounded and get centered within ourselves and just come back to the present moment. Because I don't know about you all, but like I never feel prepared for the new year. Like it always every year I say like, oh my God, I can't believe it's like the new year. And I should stop saying that, like, because I should start believing that I'm never going to be prepared. I'm never going to feel like, yes, I am ready for some resolutions and goals. It's like, no, I'm still a mess. I'm still trying to process. I'm still trying to process 2019. Like not, I haven't even gotten to 2020 yet. I'm still working on 2019. So, um, but I do have some journaling prompts that I've been working on today that I've been doing with my teacher that have really, really helped me that I'm going to be sharing with you tonight too, that I hope also help you digest and process and get into a space of clarity, perhaps, or a moment of clarity, right? So tonight's session will involve, of course, some journaling. So like I said, if you've got a notebook, have it handy. Feel free to have any props available for your yoga practice. We'll be starting with a little bit of exploration on our themes tonight, on this theme of devotion and Hanuman, the Hindu deity that really symbolizes devotion and who has some really fantastic stories attached to him, and using that as a thread for our physical yin practice. And of course, for the physical yin practice, you know, it's yin, so by nature it's pretty chill, but please honor your body. um, for some of you, you know, you may not have been doing a yoga practice in the last couple of weeks, or your practice may have shifted over the last couple of weeks, months, years, whatever. Just let yourself be where you are tonight. Honor what you need. If I'm cueing anything that does not feel appropriate for you, then don't do it. So I'm really, really happy that you're here. So nice to get to connect with those who are joining me live, and for everybody who's going to be watching this replay. And when we think about the new year, of course, we do have this cultural presence of goal setting, intention setting. Like if you want to soften goal setting in the yoga and wellness world, you call it intention setting, right? It's like, I'm not setting resolutions, I'm setting intentions. But even so, this type of process can get us into traps of like the self-improvement samsaric cycle, right? It's like a never ending wheel of self-improvement. And like, by the way, self-improvement is also wonderful and great and necessary. And I love people who are also always like working on themselves. But for some of us who are really hard on ourselves, which I have a feeling is going to be a lot of you. If you're really hard on yourself, then, you know, you take self-improvement to the nth degree and you feel like you can never measure up and you're just like never inherently good enough. And so this phrase that has been, actually it's not even a phrase, it's just a word that has been circulating in my brain, in my atmosphere for a while now, is the word becoming. Because for so long, I've asked myself, like, when will I arrive? And arriving has never been necessarily an external destination. It's more of an internal state of awareness, like a feeling, like a big old sigh, right? Like a letting go deep in the lower abdomen. And maybe it feels different for you somatically, or maybe you imagine it will feel different in your body when you've arrived. Like, will it feel like to finally be like, ah, yeah, I've made it. And I've been sort of chasing that dragon for the last 20 years of spiritual practice and study. And I'm starting to realize that that's not the right question. I'm not asking the right question, that perhaps it's not even a question. It's more of like, can I be okay with this unfolding, this becoming? So it's not like I'm ever going to arrive anywhere. I'm just always becoming. And you're always becoming. You are very different now than where you were 12 months ago, right? And so the other axis upon which we can orbit ourselves this evening, and maybe if you find it helpful going forward, is a question that is not a goal, it's not a resolution, but it's this idea of, what are you devoted to? And so maybe we can start there and just take a moment to take a few deep breaths. And maybe you want to start writing, you can journal if that's how you want to process this, or if you just want to sit in a state of gentle contemplation, maybe closing your eyes, maybe lifting through your heart, and just asking yourself, in this moment in my life, what am I devoted to? And just let whatever comes up come up. It doesn't have to be even, maybe it doesn't even show up in words. Maybe it's more of a felt sense. Maybe it's an energy. Maybe it's an image. And we can take a couple more breaths. Oh, hey, Julie, I'm glad you were able to make it. Awesome. I have a very dangerous setup just off screen with like crystals and tarot cards and like piping hot tea. It's all very like vata, very precariously arranged, plus like my computer. Right? It's all very vata situation. Anyway. So then thinking about what you're devoted to. I this came into my mind because I just recently was listening to a podcast. It's if you're familiar with the publisher Sounds True, Tammy Simon, she has a podcast. It's called Insights at the Edge, and she recently had an interview, and the episode title is called Tracking Wonder, in case you're interested. A title like that really got me, like, oh, Tracking Wonder, how interesting. And in it, this idea came up of like, what are you devoted to? And starting off each day with that question. And I really, really love that. And so I've been doing that this past week. And it's really actually changed how I spend my time. Because if I consider what I'm devoted to, right? Like if I'm devoted to words and stories and creativity and creative energy and my creative expression, well, then I'm going to need to spend some time out of my day actually writing, actually reading, actually like, reading a poem and like sitting with it and smiling and being into that when, as you know, a lot of days what we're devoted to doesn't make it to the to-do list. And it can be a really helpful way to bump up some of those important soul nourishing, life affirming qualities and energies that we want to bring more into our lives. So when we think about this, can also be a helpful way, by the way, to subvert our self-critical impulse to always be striving toward a sense of improvement and maybe even some of those like self-destructive tendencies that make us feel like we're never good enough, like we're never going to arrive, we're never going to achieve whatever state of bliss or enlightenment we have projected in our mind. And instead just coming back to, well, what am I devoted to? What am I devoted to? And of course, oh, no problem. Yeah. I'm sorry you're having audio issues. Can everybody else hear me okay? Okay. Cool. When I think about devotion, I think about Hanuman. And I know some of you are familiar with Hanuman. And if you're not, the symbolism and the mythology of Hanuman can be really inspiring out of the Hindu tradition. And Hanuman is a monkey god in the Hindu pantheon. And he's often correlated a lot and celebrated a lot in bhakti yoga, because bhakti is the yoga of the heart. It's the path of sort of like pouring your ego self out and letting the world in, which means letting the divine in. And a lot of images of Hanuman, a lot of statues of Hanuman actually show him ripping open his chest. And I love to, like, they're usually kind of bloody. Like, I don't know why I like that. They don't shy away from the details, right? Because if you're going to rip open your chest, there's going to be some blood, They don't like cookie cutter it, sugar coat it for us. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And he's like peeling open his heart, and you can see what's inside. And in this context, what's in Hanuman's heart is Sita and Rama, and he's so devoted to these figures. And Rama is God in disguise in the Ramayana, in the great Indian epic. And what I also really love about Hanuman, which we'll be exploring too as we get moving a little bit, is that he's incredibly powerful. He's really one of the central figures in this great Indian epic, and it's full of wonderful drama, and it's about rescuing Sita, the princess, and reuniting her with Rama, with her love, with her husband. And Hanuman can do that because he has these incredible powers. He's incredibly strong. He can make himself like 100 times bigger than he is. He can literally leap across the ocean, but he doesn't know it. And he's got all these like limiting beliefs about himself. And he's there with the monkey army. They're standing at one point in this saga, in this great epic. They're trying to rescue Sita, and they get some intel that she's on the island of Lanka being held captive by a demon, Ravana. Which, by the way, I know I've said this before, so some of you have heard me say this regarding mythology, particularly Hindu mythology. One of the reasons why I think Hindu mythology is so incredible and so potent is because we are every character. Like, usually when like you watch a movie or you read a story, like you want to identify with the good guys, like the protagonist. Like, yeah, that's me. I would do that. That's how I would behave in that scenario. But in these stories, we are to be reminded that we are everyone. And even Ravana, in this iteration, in the Ramayana, he is the bad guy, right? But that's just in this one single story. Like in somebody else's story, like you might be the Ravana, and you might be Hanuman. You might be the great hero in someone else's story. And so it's even more complex than just this one iteration. But they're standing on the water's edge, and they're looking out. They get this intel that Sita is being held captive on the island of Lanka, and they can't get there, and Hanuman's like, we can't do it. I can't do it. And one of the older commanders in this army that's like made up of all these different animals, like bears and monkeys, he's the bear commander. He turns to Hanuman and he says, when you were a child, you were incredibly powerful. You were also a mischievous child. That's why you were put under certain spells to make you forget how strong you are, how powerful you are. Because when he was a child, Hanuman leapt up and wanted to reach for the sun. He thought it was a mango, right? Because he's just a baby monkey. What a cute little baby monkey. Anyway, he forgot. He forgot that he could leap across the ocean and not know what the hell is on the other side. Like, what are you going to find on the other side? So we often refer to Hanuman not only as a symbol of devotion, but by his leap of faith, right? And that's a cliche that we use so much in our lives. Sometimes it's lost its meaning, it's lost its sparkle, but we're all doing that. And here we are in this threshold of like another year where uncertainty may be looming even larger for us than it has in the past, only because uncertainty has always loomed large. It's just now we're aware of it, right? Now we're waking up to how uncertain our lives actually are, and how, what's the phrase, like how lack of control we all have. And as a control freak, a self-professed control freak, like I don't love that. Like, it's not easy for me to be like, woo, leap of faith. Go for it. Yeah. Like, I'm not an optimist by nature, FYI. At all. And I don't like uncertainty. I would love to feel certain. I would love to be in control. Maybe you would too. But unfortunately, that's just like not the way that it's shaken out. So what can we do? We can be at right angles with reality, or we can do the hard work. It's going to be hard either way, I guess, right? I'm a Capricorn too, so sorry. New moon in Capricorn. We just love pessimism and working hard. but either way it's going to be challenging, like resisting how things are, or seeing where can I soften into things as they are, which is, of course, for many of us, our gateway into mindfulness, our gateway into yoga and meditation itself, to be with things as they are, not as we would like to arrange them. And we're being faced with this spiritual fire of seeing the tremendous gifts of that great foundation of mindfulness, meditation, and yoga. Can I be with things as they are, even though my ego mind may not super love it all the time? And can we take that step just like every hour, not even like every day? Sometimes like that's too big an ask in this world, right? In our lives. Maybe just like, okay, for this next moment, I'm going to step into uncertainty. I don't know what the future holds, right? We don't know. But we can show up for ourselves, and we can show up with care for each other. So let's keep your journal handy if you're a journaler. I'll ask some prompts as we continue, and let's dive in. I wanted to play some music in the background, but I'm using a different computer today, so I don't think that's going to work. So if you have your own background music you want to jam to, go for it. And let's get started in child's pose. Yeah. So you may want to have your blocks nearby. You may even want to place a blanket underneath your knees. And it may feel good to widen your knees out a little bit, wider than your hips. Maybe you place a pillow, a cushion, a block under your forehead. Even if you don't normally use those kind of props, if you've got them handy, you may make this a bit of a softer practice, maybe a more nurturing experience tonight. Just resting your forehead down on a prop or your mat or the floor, stretching your arms out, or perhaps draping them by your sides with your palms facing up by your feet. Just seeing which variations feel good in your body right now. Let's take a couple of moments to settle in deeper. See where your body can soften across your shoulders and your shoulder blades, down your arms and your forearms and your palms. Make any other wiggles or adjustments that you need to let yourself be even a little more comfortable here. See if you could open up and release without forcing. No pushing, no striving tonight. letting the muscles in your face relax. Letting go in your jaw. Can you sense the waves of your breath rising and falling? Inhaling fully, expanding across your side ribs, across your upper back maybe. Exhaling, just letting go. And we'll walk the hands over to the right in a big arc. If you've got a prop under your forehead, you may bring it with you. So stretching the arms out all the way over to the right, keeping your forearms and elbows melted down to the mat. Maybe your left hand rests gently on top of your right. Or maybe you use your left hand like a little extra pillow under your forehead, bending your left elbow. Resting left forearm or left hand under your head. Maybe with every inhale here, you find that lengthening across your spine, that spaciousness in your torso. And with each exhale, again, a little more softness, a little deeper release. Now stretch both arms out, back to center. Take a deep breath in through the nose and just exhale with a sigh at center. Walk your hands over to the left, melting your forearms, your elbows down, melting your head down, using a prop or your right arm, if that's appropriate and feels good under your forehead. The new moon is energetically a time for us to rest and replenish and get quiet. It's actually the yin phase of the moon, right? It's dark, it's voided out in the sky, as opposed to the full moon, which is its most yang expression. There's lightness and brightness, illumination in the sky. So this is a really appropriate time to go slow, to reflect, to get quiet, and of course, to practice yin. So hey, good for you. Let's slowly walk the hands back through center. Palms ground down as you rise up to tabletop. As I always say, groaning is fully acceptable in yin. Keeping your knees stacked under your hips, wrists stacked under your shoulders. Let's move through some real slow cow and cat here. Inhale as your heart draws forward and you soften into the saddle of your lower back. Exhale as you round your back, cat arch, pressing the earth away and just flowing here. Inhaling and exhaling. As you breathe in, maybe sense the breath. broadening across the front of your heart, your collarbones, hugging your shoulder blades toward each other. And then as you exhale, lifting your navel up toward your spine, dropping the crown of your head. Breathe in deeply from the base of the lungs all the way up across your heart center. Exhale, round your back, grounding across your palms, spreading through your fingertips, just flowing. Really slow, really simple. Arriving in your body just as it is in this moment. And of course, if you want to wag your hips side to side or draw circles in the air with your hips, go for it. Maybe open and close your jaw. Find those movements that feel nourishing for you. Let's stretch the right toes back behind us on the ground, just to awaken across the hamstrings, release a little pressure in the right leg, get some circulation flowing. Breathe deeply. The yin practice of yoga and all yoga practices are not just physical, but energetic. So you might even imagine that prana, that life force energy is carried across the nadis or the meridians, branching out. We don't have to know precisely how it's going or where it's going. We can just imagine or feel or tune in energetically. Let's bend the right knee and step it forward in between your hands. Take as many steps as you need. You can use blocks if you have some blocks handy. I do recommend placing a blanket or a cushion underneath your left knee for a little extra support. Let's make sure the right knee is stacked directly on top of the right ankle, so your right shin is straight up and down like a pillar. If you do have blocks, you can play with the height of the blocks. I always recommend the highest height for as much lift across the heart and therefore maximum ease in the torso, shoulders, wrists, but you got to do what feels good for you. Let's take a few deep breaths here. Drawing that right thigh and hip ever so slightly back. If there's a lot of pressure on your wrists or your hands, see how you could adjust to relieve that pressure while still allowing the back hip flexor and quadriceps to get this stretch, this release here. So maybe that means firing up a little more through your front thigh, pressing down into the earth through your right heel so that you're stable. And so we're not dropping too much pressure in our hands. You can lift through your heart, that seat of devotion, that center of compassion. Maybe you imagine a light in your heart, warm, softening you from the inside out, warming you. Let's take another deep breath in, finding length and lift across your spine, across your chest. Now we do press down into the earth with that right leg as we lengthen out the right leg. Draw your right hip back. For Ardha Hanuman Asana, half split, you might wiggle your right foot forward a bit. And of course, it can feel really yummy to flex your right ankle for a moment, maybe spread out through the right toes, get a good stretch there. That's a little more active of a stretch, a little more yang. And then eventually relax your right foot, relax your ankle, still drawing your right femur bone, your right thigh and your right hip up and back. So the hips are level with each other. We don't want to totally round the back too much, especially if you experience neck or shoulder pain. See if you could still maintain steadiness in your spine. But if it feels yummy and it's in your practice, maybe you do lower a little bit, maybe you round a little bit, if that feels okay tonight. Hanuman Asana is the posture of Hanuman. So here we are in the half expression, right? Sort of a half leap. But we can call it a full leap, don't worry. Perhaps you imagine your back leg, your left leg, sturdy and stable here, kind of representing the past year, the past few years. And then this extended leg representing that unknown space where we're stretching into, we're just sort of becoming every moment into the future. And here we are, breathing right in the middle, right in the center. Breathing in presence, breathing out fully. Breathing in presence, breathing out to let go. Take your time as you slowly bend your right knee again and anchor down across the sole of your right foot. Lift through your heart. You can rest your hands on your right thigh, or if you'd like here, you can float your arms out and up, awakening across the heart, stretching up through the fingertips. This is known as Anjanae Asana, and Anjanae is Hanuman's mother. So these poses often flow together, right? The mother to the son. Anjanae Asana flowing into the half split, Ardha Hanumanasana. Let's take another breath here. And then sweep your arms all the way out and down, lightly down, either to your blocks. Maybe you lower the height of the blocks, or just down to your mat. Draw your right leg back to meet the left and melt back into a child's pose. Take your time. Your right leg might feel really, really different from your left leg. Breathe in through the nose and exhale with a big sigh. Bowing back down to the earth. When we think about the new moon, the dark moon, it's like planting a seed. Maybe that seed is your devotion, what you want to devote yourself to. The seed, of course, has to be planted in the darkness. It has to be buried. And it takes time. It takes time for a seed to germinate. Connected to the ground. And then maintaining that connection to your mat, to the floor, the ground. As you rise up, breathe deeply back to tabletop. Maybe move through another slow round of cow and cat. If you'd like to walk your palms forward about a handprint or two, really spreading through the pads of the fingertips, shoulder distance apart in your hands. Maybe you tuck your toes under and lift your hips up and back into a downward facing dog. Groaning might feel good there. Maybe slowly sink into one heel and then the other, really drawn up and back through your hips. Hips stretching up and back. Ears in line with your biceps. If you're in your down dog, melt your knees and shins back to the earth. Stretch your left toes back behind you on the mat, on the floor. A little activation in your core. Your hands like roots, rooting down into that dark, rich, fertile soil beneath you. Drawing up nourishment, nutrients from the earth through your palms, through your arms, nourishing your heart. As we bend the left knee, take as many steps as you need. Walk your left foot forward, in between your hands. If you've got blocks, you know what to do. Bring them on down. Making sure your shoulders are still stacked over your wrists. So physically here, we're targeting now the right front of the hip flexors, the quadriceps. You can always add more cushion underneath your back knee. You want to make the knees feel supported here. Never putting any undue pressure on the body. Just allowing the stretch to unfold without force. You can't force a yin pose. That's counterintuitive. Lift through your heart, soften your shoulders. Tops of the right toes grounded to the earth. Crown of the head gently lengthening up and away from your tailbone. One more deep breath here. Rooting down through the sole of your left foot, your left heel, connected to the earth, kind of press the earth away to lengthen out your left leg. Take these transitions really slowly. Maybe you wiggle your left foot coming into our Ardha Hanuman Asana on that side. Yes, that's counter-intuitive. Exactly, Rob. Drawing that left thigh and hip up and back. Maybe you're flexing your left ankle. Maybe you're relaxing your left ankle. Sinking in eventually into that yin expression. Let there be space between your ears and your shoulders. Let there be space across your brow. Maybe between the roof of your mouth and your tongue. Maybe there could be space on a more subtle, energetic level. And the right leg now representing the past, the left leg stretching into the darkness of the unknown. In this space of softness, in the center of the present moment, breathing in and breathing out. We'll slowly transition back to Anjanae Asana, bending your left knee stacked over the ankle, lift up through your heart, maybe activate a little bit more now through your thighs, a little more solar yang energy as we sweep the arms up and overhead. Nice, full, vibrant breaths. That inner light from the heart. Stretching out, emanating through you, emanating out through your fingertips. Another deep breath in. Maybe a little transition there if it feels good from Anjanae Asana back. One last little stretch into Hanuman Asana, the leap. We breathe in, we lift and awaken, lift your gaze. Exhale, float your hands down and slowly stretch your left leg back. You can melt back either into child's pose again, or maybe one more slow and easy downward facing dog. No matter where you are in this moment, just tune into your breath. We'll all slowly sit back. And before we move on to our next yin pose, if you have your journal or if you just like to sit in gentle contemplation, you can do that too. But I'd like you now to think back to the you in January of 2021, a year ago. And what advice or what medicine would you offer yourself, the 2021 version of you? You don't have to overthink it. Maybe it's not even in words. Maybe what you would offer your younger self, so innocent, right? Is a color, an image, a symbol, an object. If you're still contemplating or writing on that, feel free to keep going. The second piece to this is to think about, just imagine your future self. Could be a year from now, maybe 25 years from now, doesn't matter. What advice or medicine does your future self have for you now in this moment? You can keep going with this, of course, or when you're ready, you can lie on back. And as you lie back, stretch your arms up and overhead. No rush, by the way. That would also be counter yin intuitive. Thank you for that, Rob. I love a yin pun. Maybe you're stretching your arms up and overhead, stretching down through your toes, sensing into that energy like light coursing through you, through your limbs, out through your fingertips, down through your toes. And then we'll hug the knees into the chest and rock the knees side to side, massage into your low back. You can bring your knees to center and let your arms peel open like wings on the floor on either side of you as your knees tip over to the left. And of course, if you've got a pillow or blanket, it can feel really soothing to place that pillow or blanket underneath the outside of your left leg or between your knees as we move into this gentle spinal twist. Maybe you're also kind of lifting up your hips and scooting your left hip up and under. And that tends to help the rotation of the hips and the position of the sacrum. Maybe you're resting your left hand on top of your right outer thigh for a little extra nourishment as your right arm peels open like a wing, knees to the left, maybe chin rotates to the right, unwinding. Letting your body soften No effort in this shape. What could you adjust to let go of some effort? How could you invite a little more ease into this moment? Breathing in slowly, breathing out slowly. As we very slowly transition to the other side, in your own time, let your knees drift back to center. Maybe give your knees a little hug. Maybe shift any props over to the other side. And then let your knees drape over to the right, peeling your left arm out by your side like a wing. A prop can feel really nice between your knees or on the outside of your right thigh and knee, between the floor and your right leg. Maybe kind of tucking your right hip up and under a bit too. Letting your shoulder blades soften and relax a little deeper. Allowing that sense of ease and groundedness to spread out from your shoulders down across your arms, through your palms and your fingertips, across your upper back and your mid back and your lower back, and across your hips. Right hip softening, deepening down to the earth. In both hips and legs. Easy, no effort, no force. From your hips all the way down through your toes. Enjoy a few more deep breaths. Supine twist. Unwinding, processing, releasing. It's nothing you have to do mentally. The wisdom of the body, the wisdom of your subtle body, your energy body can help us to process and digest all that we've been experiencing, all that you've been through. Honoring all that you've been through. As we slowly, in your own time, draw your knees back to center. Give yourself another hug. Take a moment to enjoy any other stretch, any other movement that will feel yummy here. Getting comfortable, lying back fully. Or coming into any other position that allows you to feel safe and supported and relaxed. You can always change position. Inviting in any props, any blankets. It's one of the pleasures of practicing at home. You've got all your stuff. It's not often we get to bring our favorite pillow to yoga class with us at a studio. So, grab what makes you feel good. Get cozy. As you draw your awareness to the crown of your head, just gather your attention to the top of your head. And we can imagine the cooling, darkening sky. If you imagine just after sunset, how the sky becomes velvet. Now those first few stars, lately here in Florida, Venus and Jupiter appear right at twilight. And all the energies of the day start to become muted. They get a little softer. They get a little quieter. It's almost like the nice dark curtains are drawn on the sky. We can imagine that quality of the darkness draping over us, draping over you. From the top of your head, down across your forehead, down across your eyes, letting the fires of the eyes soften into the coolness and darkness of night, the richness of night. Down across your temples and your ears, letting the sense organs of the ears grow more relaxed, more at ease, receiving, whole body, receptive, safe, supported. Across your jaw and your mouth. Letting this darkness, like the cooling night sky, continue to wash over you, down your throat, your neck, pooling, darkness pooling into your right shoulder and spilling down your right arm, upper arm and forearm, across your right palm, down through the fingertips of your right hand, right thumb, index finger, right mid finger, right ring finger, right little finger. Dark and quiet and still. Heavy and grounded. From your right hand and the back of the hand, up across your right wrist and forearm and upper arm, across your right shoulder, across your right collarbone and right shoulder blade, over to your left collarbone and left shoulder blade, letting that sense of sweet, safe darkness travel over to your left shoulder and melt down your left arm, upper arm and forearm, down across your left palm, fingertips, left thumb, left index finger, left middle finger, left ring finger, left little finger. Heavy, grounded. Across the back of your left hand and up across your left wrist, left forearm, back up across your left upper arm, left shoulder. Breathe across both shoulder blades and the space between your shoulder blades. Breathe across your heart. Breathe across your solar plexus, your mid-back, your side ribs. Breathe deep into your low belly and your low back. Heavy and relaxed across your hips. As your awareness pools into your right hip and cascades down your right leg, all the way from your right hip, down through your right foot, across your heel and sole of right foot, all the way across your right toes, from your right big toe to your right little toe. Letting the darkness and the richness of night cloak your right leg from your toes and your foot, your lower leg, your right knee, your upper leg, your right hip, like a softening. As your awareness pools over into your left hip and cascades down your left leg, all the way down through the sole of your left foot, your left heel, all the way through your toes, from your left big toe, all the way to your left little toe. The wisdom of night, the yin time of rest and replenishment, growing quieter, dropping down, absorbed in your body. From your left foot all the way back, across ankle and lower leg, left knee and upper leg. Breathe across both hips and both legs. Breathe across both shoulders and down both arms. As the beautiful dark sky illuminated by millions of stars floats above you, holding you like a hug. The richness of the fertile soil beneath you holds you. Feel your body softening into the earth beneath you. And perhaps you imagine that rich, dark soil as it molds around your body, nourishing you. Breathing deeply. Now bring your awareness back to your heart in the center of all of this, the center axis of your body, between the earth and the sky, root chakra, crown chakra. Breathe into your heart. Maybe there's that light, warm and soft and glowing, like a star in the dark night sky. And just like Hanuman, if you were to gaze into your heart, into that beautiful cathedral, what would you find? It doesn't have to be in words, maybe colors, images, or felt sensation arises. Just allow whatever comes up to come up. As we rest here for another moment, and then slowly let that light and awareness begin to spread out from your heart center across your limbs, back down through your fingertips and your toes. Slowly welcoming mindful movement back into your body, wiggling fingertips and toes, stretching out in any way that feels good. Maybe arms float up and overhead. No rush. When you're ready, you can roll over to one side and take your time. Press yourself up to a comfortable seat. We'll close our practice together tonight on this new moon. Bringing one hand to your heart and the other right on top. The left hand is the yin hand. You might bring your left hand directly to your heart, followed by the right. Thank yourself. Send your heart some gratitude. Thank yourself for being on this path. For being you. Exactly as you are. We'll breathe in through the nose and exhale with a soft sigh. Thank you so much. I bow to each and every one of you. Bow to this practice. Bow to these teachings. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you all showed up. I'm so happy I have people to practice with. So thanks for that. And if you want to journal maybe what came up for you when you gazed into your heart again, and maybe something different than when we started, or maybe something more or something clearer came up, or if you want to share, feel free. I'll stop the recording. If you want to share anything that came up.